All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about trying to pick or determine the phase or where in the economy and stock market cycle, business cycle we think we are. And so basically, if you're trying to figure out kind of where we seem to be, one of the first things to look at is, well, what are the current economic conditions? So an easy place to start is what's inflation look like and what's the Federal Reserve doing about it? Because that tells you something about kind of what the Federal Reserve is seeing. And then you start looking at maybe unemployment and economic growth and things like that. And you start kind of piecing it together. So kind of look at all those things that I mentioned in some of these prior videos, like what's the bond market doing? What's the stock market doing? What's it? What is the Federal Reserve doing? What's inflation look like, right? What's unemployment look like? And basically try to piece all that together and try to determine what seems to be the most accurate estimation of kind of where we are. So things to consider: inflation, interest rates, unemployment, Federal Reserve policy, economic growth, stock market trends, bond market trends, possibly sector trends. You can maybe look at some ETFs and try to get a sense for what kinds of companies have done particularly well lately. And basically, what you're going to wind up doing after looking at all that kind of information, and just kind of piecing it all together and looking at inflation and interest rates and what the stock market's doing and bond market's doing and unemployment and what's the Federal Reserve talking about? Are they raising rates or lowering rates? What's inflation been doing? Has that been going up or going down? And so when you look at all that, basically what you do is you try to piece it all together into a picture that is telling you about kind of where the economy is. And keep in mind that I would argue pretty commonly you're going to have different things that are pointing in different directions. So you might think that, well, I'm not seeing a lot of economic growth, but at the same time, they haven't raised interest rates a whole lot. So you're trying to figure out, well, so I've had some economic growth, but not a tremendous amount. So does that mean that we're slowing in economic growth? And if I just came out of a growth period, it's like that would make me think, well, okay, so if there's not a lot of growth at the moment, maybe we're sliding more towards like a phase four. But on the other hand, if they never really raised rates and they never really had inflation, maybe not, because normally uh, raising rates and higher inflation would be something that would factor in with phase four. Um, because that would have been going on, the inflation rates have been starting to go up in phase three, right? So from that standpoint, sometimes you're going to have factors that are pointing in, sort of opposite directions and, different phases. And so basically the challenge of this is trying to synthesize it together to try to figure out, what seems to most closely match the data. And again, if you just get even close to right, then it helps you make more informed decisions. We're not suggesting that you can I'm not suggesting that you can even remotely figure out exactly where the bottom or the top is going to be. But if you can get closer and get more of a sense of sort of what sort of environment you're operating in, then you can probably make some better choices as a business manager or perhaps as an investor. And so what you really are kind of looking for is what phase seems to most closely match the data. And you aren't necessarily going to find one that seems to perfectly fit everything that you're looking at. You might have some data points pointing towards one phase, some other data points pointing towards a different phase. And so you have to kind of synthesize it together to the best of your ability and try to figure out what seems to be most supported. So it is a little bit of a process, but if you can get even close to it, then you can get a better sense for perhaps what your environment is that you're operating in, and therefore what kind of choices would make the most sense given that situation. And that's kind of the point behind this. All right. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.